Hello, hello, hello. It is I, Gordon, the podcast lawyer. And yeah, we're here to do a little recording today. I'm going to do 2 episodes of Legit Podcast Pro podcast after a while, but I thought I'd just say hello and do some question and answer if anybody has anything. So I'm going to wait a couple of minutes just for people to join and see what they're up to and all of that, and hope you'll pop in. And by the way, if you are watching in the Legit Podcast Pro Facebook group, I'm going to grab the link so you can go there and let me see your name if you say something in the comments. And you just got to go to that to if you're in the Legit Podcast Pro Facebook group, click that link to let me see who you are when you comment or say something. Right now, it doesn't look like someone has just joined, so say hello and let me know who you are and what you're all about. Love to catch up with you. And as I said, I'm going to be recording a couple of episodes of the podcast today. One will go live today or tomorrow, and another one to go live right after the first of the year. Just getting into batching it a little bit so I have some library of content built up, and would love to say hello to folks. So what's new? Who's here? What you're watching? Like I said, somebody's watching. Say something in the comments or the chat or whatever you call it. If you're watching on LinkedIn, say hello there. If you're watching on YouTube, say hi there. And if you're watching on Facebook, one of the pages or channels, let me know. And if you have any questions, I'm going to do some Q&A today if there are any questions. So, in fact, the 2 episodes I'm going to do are from questions that have come in the last few days, mostly in Facebook groups. One of them actually was a direct message. So, seeing it, here we are. Thank you for the like. I appreciate it. A thumbs up, whatever you want to call that. I appreciate it. And love to know who's here watching. So pop a note in the comments and say hello. And we'll get started here in just another moment or two. I've been sitting and working on stuff all day, but I've had the TV going. I don't usually do that when I'm trying to work, but I've been watching Yellowstone, different national park. If anybody has been watching Yellowstone, I'm binge watching it. Right now I'm on, what is it, season 4, episode 10, and boy, this show is compelling. I recommend it. If you're a fan, say so. Let me know. And if you're not. I did catch the first episode of 1923, I think it is, on what was it on? Not Peacock, on Paramount Plus this weekend. And I'm looking forward to the next episode. That's the one with Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, and it plays the grandparents of the Kevin Costner character in Yellowstone. And if you haven't watched 1883, that's great. Also, 1880, whatever it was. But I'm not here to review television programs. I'm here to talk about podcasts and the legal aspects of that. We're going to do a couple episodes of Legit Podcast Pro. Hello, Bashir. Nice to see you. Great to catch you live. Thank you. Yeah, likewise. It's good to see you. I'm going to do a couple of episodes. I've got a question about what to do whether or not it's okay to adopt a name for your podcast or your channel or whatever, if that name is already taken in another country, in fact, and I'll give my answer to that. And then I also have a question. It's kind of an interesting question that came up just about, well, what if I'm talking about things that are sort of in the paranormal realm, and are there any legal concerns about that and true crime and those kinds of things? So we're going to cover both of those. I'm going to do them as 2 different episodes. So you'll see me stopping and starting and rolling in previews and things like that. so I can um, do as little post-production as possible to get these things out, because post-production is the time-consuming part of the writing and preparation is time-consuming, but the post-production adds to it. And so I try to set things up so I get it all done as fast and easily as possible. So here's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to start with the first one about the name being taken, and I'll finish up that one. It might be a little long. Feel free to pop questions in the chat as we go, or wait until I'm through the first episode that we're recording, and maybe I'll take a little break and answer a couple questions then, and then I'll do the second one. I have to do a little regrouping and reorganizing things before I can do that. So let me get that started here, like so. Oh, I have to turn this thing on. This is the one. Okay, turn on the voice. I have a teleprompter that tracks with the voice, so hopefully this will work. Let's give it a shot. What do you say? It's not working because it started scrolling before I was ready. So I'm going to back it up. If I can figure out how to do that. Gotta stop and reset. All right, we're going to give it a shot now. So here we go. Put a marker. That didn't do it. Marker. What if the title you've chosen for your podcast is already taken? Hello and welcome to this episode of Legit Podcast Pro. Oh, darn it. I'm here. I was yakking away and the audio was muted for some reason in this scene. So I'm going to go back and start over. There you go. Take two coming up here in just a moment. Let me pop into here. Yeah, Rick, thank you for letting me know. I don't know. I've got all these things are sort of preset, and for whatever reason, when it changed into this scene, it was still muted. So I'm going to just check the rest of the scenes real quick here. Okay, we're going to try it one more time. Thank you for that, Rick. I appreciate you letting me know. I would have been pretty annoyed with myself if I'd just gone on and on and on. This is kind of a long one, too. So, going to go back to the top. And we'll pause it, reset it. And, okay, we're going to get going again here. Thanks again, Rick. I'm so grateful that happened. Yeah, well, that's what. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. So bear with me. We're going to get started again. I'm going to go back to, as they say in the film business, back to one. And let me get myself set up here. All right. Okay, here we go. Back to the one about the name being taken. So I'm just going to pop in here, put a marker in my video so I know the timestamp. Come back in here and over here. And here we go. What if the podcast title you have chosen is already taken? Hi, and welcome to Legit Podcast Pro. I'm Gordon Firemark. Well, hello and welcome to Legit Podcast Pro. I'm Gordon Firemark, the podcast lawyer, and this podcast is for you if you're serious about podcasting, whether it's in your business or as a career or as a sideline. And on the show we're doing, you will get tips and strategies and advice from me and my guests on how to protect and grow and profit from your podcast. So here is today's topic. I got this question in a DM from a podcast coach whose client has asked, hey, I want to change my podcast title. I want to name my podcast Wacky Widgets. I changed that title to keep things clean here, but there's a podcast based in another country called The Wacky Widget, and they haven't released an episode since March. Does this cause a potential copyright infringement, or am I okay? Well, okay, first of all, let's just clarify something. This wouldn't be a copyright question. It's about trademark. You see, copyrights protect original expression of ideas that are more than just a phrase or a couple of words. Trademark law does protect distinctive words and symbols and phrases and marks, in other words, brands, that are affixed to goods or services to indicate and distinguish their source from others in the market. So, a distinctive podcast title is supposed to give an indication of where the show comes from, which company or person is behind it. So, if it's distinctive, then the title could be protected as a trademark. But the scenario in this question actually raises a whole bunch of issues. So let's take them one at a time. First, is the title Wacky Widgets distinctive enough to be considered a trademark? Now, I have my doubts about this. In fact, I'm currently involved in an argument with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office over another show's title that is two descriptive words, very similar here. The examining attorney's position is that that it does nothing but describe the content of the show. And so my concern is that if Wacky Widgets is a show about crazy inventions or weird items that people find or something, then it's probably going to encounter a similar objection. But if it's about something completely different, like, say, fly fishing, then that incongruity might be enough to pass the test, if the examiner agrees that it's fanciful or a suggestive and not a descriptive brand. But let's assume for a moment that it is deemed distinctive enough for trademark protection. Well, it's already taken. Somebody else has been using the same or confusingly similar brand, and that's the test, whether there is a likelihood of confusion of the average consumer as to the source or origin of the junior mark. And if so, that's a trademark infringement. But the question in our scenario said that the senior user hasn't published an episode since March. It's December now, so that's about 9 months. Trademarks can lose their protection if they are deemed abandoned, that is, if they stop being used in commerce. But 9 months isn't even close to long enough for that abandonment to be assumed. Usually we're looking for 3 or 5 or more years of non-use. So should this podcaster feel free to go ahead and adopt wacky widgets for her show? I'm still going to give an unqualified no, but not for the reasons that she's asking about, not because it's some kind of an infringement. It's because, well, you see, I have my doubts that the brand is distinctive enough to be protected as a trademark. But that's actually the reason I'm saying no. It's too descriptive. This podcaster could probably get away with using that title, but so could another 10 or 100 or 1,000 podcasts. Even one other show with the same or a similar title can dilute the impact. And worse, if their show is crap, people might get confused and think it's yours or that you're associated with them somehow or something like that. So please, please, please pick a distinctive title, one that will stand out and capture people's attention and imagination. Let the subtitle and the cover art and the description fill in a bit more about what your show is about. You'll still get discovered, I promise. So, what if you already have chosen that descriptive title and you're dozens or hundreds of episodes in? Is all hope lost? Well, no. Good news. I confess, I actually made this exact mistake with my own podcast. Entertainment Law Update. Pretty dang descriptive for a podcast that gives you an update on what's new in the field of entertainment law. Am I right? Okay. But a descriptive phrase can develop acquired distinctiveness. After 5 or more years of continuous use, your audience, the consumers, will probably have associated a secondary meaning of the descriptive brand with you, the source. And that acquired distinctiveness, if you can prove it exists, is enough to get the full trademark protection. And in the meantime, if you do have a descriptive title, but you have less than 5 years of use to show, it's still possible to register on the supplemental register. Now, that doesn't give you all the protection of a registered trademark, but it does show up in trademark searches, availability searches, and it can block a later user's registration from going through. So there's some real value in it. And just so you don't worry about little old me, Entertainment Law Update has been around for almost 14 years now. So we're good to go. Our trademark is safe. Now, one more thing. I've been talking about U.S. law. And the scenario we started out with involved a podcaster from another country. Now, trademark registration usually doesn't extend beyond international borders. That involves some extra procedure to register in the other countries or some regions of the world you can do all at once. But the smart folks, they run a trademark search before they adopt a title or brand, just to check. And marks, even those on the supplemental register, will show up and warn them off. And you can say, hey, you registered in bad faith, or you adopted the name in bad faith because you knew we were there, or should have known. Because after all, if you expect any of your audience to be in the US, you don't want their access to your show to be blocked because you've chosen a title that's protected here. And the same goes vice versa. So you wouldn't be able to distribute an American-based show in, say, the Netherlands if you know if there's an existing podcast with a registered trademark in the Netherlands. So that's the sort of the game we have to play. But a large part of the audience is here in the US, so we do those kind of things that way. Bottom line is this. Register your brand name. Choose a distinctive title, first off. Register it as a trademark, whether it's on the principal register because it's very distinctive or on the supplemental because you're working toward acquiring that distinctiveness. And follow up and make sure you chase down the folks who adopt similar titles to tell them, hey, I'm already here in this space. You find something else to do, and do it early on so they don't have a big burden of making the change. And that should be the best way you can protect and don't adopt the title of a show that you already know exists, even if they haven't released episodes in a while. It's bad form, and it could cause you problems later on. So that's it for this episode. I will see you again really, really soon. But before I forget, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be holding my workshop, Business and Legal Fundamentals for Podcast Growth and Profit. And registration isn't quite open yet. but it's coming really, really soon. And so you can go, I'm trying to get something up on the screen here. You can go over to gordonfiremark.com/earlybird and get on our wait list if you want an invitation. So you can get that as soon as we open up registration. You can head on over to gordonfiremark.com/earlybird and join the wait list, and we will let you know as soon as the dates are firm and the times are firm, and you can be one of our invited participants in the workshop. And that's it for this episode. I'm glad to be here. See you soon. Okay, don't go anywhere. I'm going to be back. Just got to do a little reset here. Back to my pre-show jibber jabber page and reset the thing there. Thanks, Rick. Nice to hear from you, man. It's good to see you. So I'm going to reset now. Rick, before you joined in, I was letting people know that I'm doing 2 episodes worth today because I've got 2 topics, and I wanted to get something in the bank for the week after the new year when I'm not going to be available to do my show. So that one is done. Let me close that out. Put a marker in the video. Oops. Got to put the cursor here. Now back over here. It's sort of complicated what I'm having to do here. Not the overlay. That's not what I want. I want to put this on that screen. And I'm setting up my teleprompter so I have my notes in front of me, and that way I don't flub my lines too much. But in the meantime, I'm doing questions. If anybody's got anything they want to talk about, looks like we've got a handful of people watching, and that's great to hear. Great to see you. Hope you're well. This next one is about talking about the paranormal. So let me get all ready here, and I'm just gonna jump right in and do the next one. And if you've got a question or comment on this next one, or anything in between before when I get to the end, I'll take your questions. But I'm gonna rip through it because I'm recording for audio also, and this will be the audio podcast version as well. Rick says, by sheer coincidence, while tuning in, received notification that the FIFA World Cup Qatar released their copyright claims against 5 of your... Oh. Rick had some Drink with Rick shows where he had claims. Interesting to hear about that, Rick, but, well, let's come back and talk about that after. And in the meantime, let me do this next episode here, and we'll get started here. So I'm going to get set here. Whoa, what just happened? Something just crashed on my system, so I got to reopen it. There it is. It's the second time today I've had an app crash kind of unexpectedly, and I don't like it. Oh, that's not working. Okay, wait, I gotta resize a window, get it all set back up here, and get ready to go let it follow with my voice. And come back in here. I gotta figure out how to make this work a little more smoothly. Okay, here we go. Next episode in 3, 2, 1. Oops, wait. Scroll all the way back to the top. Pause, reset. All right, here we go. Okay, here we go. Don't get spooked. how to avoid getting sued for talking about paranormal and unusual and criminal activity on your podcast. Hello and welcome to Legit Podcast Pro. I'm Gordon Firemark, the podcast lawyer, and this podcast is for you if you are serious about podcasting, whether it's in your business or as a career or as a sideline. I'm sharing tips and strategies and advice on how to protect and grow and profit from your podcast. So let's get started. Today's topic comes from inside the Legit Podcast Pro Facebook community. We got this question from one of our podcasters. He says, "Happy holidays, everyone. My colleague has some concerns, so I'm asking on his behalf. Part of our podcast involves us telling things that are not just true crime, but things like maybe paranormal stories like Bell's Canyon or the story of the Mary Celeste. And then we debate and talk a little about them. My friend is concerned about any legal hits. Do we still need permission to tell these stories? Any answers or feedback are very appreciated." Well, first off, thank you for a great question and for being a part of the Facebook community. Anybody can join. It's called Legit Podcast Pro. And just head on over to legitpodcastpro.com if you're interested in a little more information about that. But let's get into this question. Let's dissect it just a little bit. There are a few kinds of legal theories or claims that could conceivably come up in a situation like this. They generally fall into two sort of categories: the intellectual property and the personal dignity related stuff. So, intellectual property are the areas of law that protect products of your mind, creative work, copyrights, trademarks, and patents. Now, in this scenario, we're not going to worry about patents because that's inventions and things. And I actually don't think trademark law really comes into play either, as long as you're not deliberately disparaging a brand or a company with false information about their products or services. So we'll talk about the copyright stuff. Copyright protects original works of expression, things like stories, plays, songs, poems, films, podcasts, works of art like paintings, sculptures, and so on. So to put it simply, just don't copy other people's stuff. If someone's written an article about Bell's Canyon, for example, it's not okay to just read that article into your microphone or camera. But it is okay to relate the same facts and the ideas contained in the article as long as you do your research. Read up from other sources, distill those facts and ideas out so you're not just copying from a single source. And by the way, merely paraphrasing from a single source, even if you're not copying the exact words, that is plagiarism, even if it's not copyright infringement. Now, this has unfortunately come up several times in the past few years, particularly in the true crime genre of podcasts. Sponsors have backed out, and some podcasts have even been discontinued as a result of the blowback. Not to mention the embarrassment the podcasters suffered when they get called out by the original journalists that wrote the source material articles that they worked with. And bottom line, it's dishonest, even if you don't get sued. Frankly, it's also unethical and immoral, and it'll come back and bite you eventually. So, protect your reputation by doing the work and developing your material independently. Now, this is not to say you can't use sources. Just don't rely solely on one or two, and do your own work, and where appropriate, credit those sources by naming them and linking in your show notes and things like that. Oh, and copyright also protects things like sound recordings. So if you use audio clips or music or sound effects, be aware that those belong to someone and you need permission or a license. Next up, we come to those personal dignity things. Defamation is the big one here. This is called libel when it's in a podcast, or slander when it's just spoken in a smaller personal setting. If you make a false statement that purports to be factual and it causes harm to a person's reputation or business or income, you could be liable to them for money damages. So stick to the truth. Fact check things. And if you are sharing rumors, speculation, and whatnot, be really clear that that's what you're doing. Because jokes and opinions and speculation, things like that the audience doesn't actually believe are factual, well, those aren't defamatory. And it's never a problem to actually tell the truth. So tell the truth. Also, if the events that you're talking about come from a long time ago and the people involved are no longer living, then it is okay to talk about those things. It's okay to speak about people who are no longer living because you can't defame a dead person. Now, privacy is another kind of personal dignity theory that can sometimes come into play here. The intrusion variety of privacy deals with actually entering into a person's solitude or seclusion in a way that's offensive to a reasonable person. Now, that's not likely to be an issue for most podcasts unless you're recording them in a private place when they have an expectation of privacy. The false light kind of privacy claim arises when you cast a person in a false light that embarrasses or causes them harm. Now, this can come up if you're talking about a person and implying or suggesting that they were involved in something they shouldn't have been or did something unseemly. Again, fact checking is your best tool to avoid this. But also, just use common sense. Don't say or publish information that could harm a living person's reputation or relationships or business, even if it could be true. Only do it if you're sure it's true. Now, the next theory in privacy is the public disclosure of private facts. Revealing someone's legally private information could lead to this kind of a claim. Doxing and outing a person could result in this, or privately recording someone could also take us there. And revealing someone's educational records, health records, history, health history, sexuality, sexual history, those kinds of things, those are all protected, unless they're a matter of public concern or publishing them serves an overriding public interest. So, for example, someone who's running for office or is in office and claims they were a star student or that they're in perfect health, yeah, go check their records. Make sure they're not lying. But think hard. Does this thing that you're publishing really serve the public interest, or is it just sensationalism? Now, in the paranormal and true crime spaces, a lot of the statements you use could come from interviews. Now, just because someone else is the interviewee and makes a statement, that does not insulate you, the podcaster, from liability. You have to still fact check everything, even if it's coming out of somebody else's mouth. And unless it's a joke or an opinion, and it's clear that that's the case, just make sure that you're checking the facts and making sure things are true. Now, I know that in this scenario, it said you're just talking about these stories. And that's great. But I just want to add one more thing to think about if you were to actually go to the places where these events occurred. You have to be mindful about trespassing, and you might even need permits or releases from the owners to film or record there. So just don't overlook that kind of thing. And that is it for this episode. I hope I'll see you again really, really soon. And yeah, before I forget, in just a couple of weeks, I'll be holding my my workshop, Business and Legal Fundamentals for Podcast Growth and Profit. Registration hasn't fully opened up yet, but it is coming up soon. And in the meantime, I've got a wait list. And if you'd like an invitation as soon as the registration opens up, head on over to gordonfiremark.com/waitlist. And until next time, I'm Gordon Firemark, the podcast lawyer, and this has been Legit Podcast Pro. Thanks. Okay, I'm back. Got my tickle in my throat through that whole one, but there it was. So Facebook user says, I've been there with apps crashing, especially typing up something important and losing an entire time. Yeah, it's happened. I mean, anybody in the podcasting space has probably recorded a whole episode and then realized they didn't press record or the system didn't work right or something happened and their recording failed. It does happen to everybody, and I appreciate your your magnificence, what is it? Magnanimity. That's the word I'm looking for. Your magnanimity, your acceptance and forgiveness for those kinds of things. I do appreciate it. Rick, if you're still with me, I would love to know a little more about what happened. I gather you were running clips from the Qatar World Cup, and they initially dinged your episode somehow, and that when you made the argument in defense that they were fair use or something like that, they released those claims. Is that it? I'm guessing. I'm guessing that that's what happened. But anyway. Well, it's the holiday season, and I'm recording this on, what is today's date? The 22nd of December. That's Thursday. Christmas is Sunday, and that means we're what, a couple of days out from Christmas Eve. And as you can see from the blinky lights in the background, I'm in the spirit. And I forgot to do something. Got to put a marker so that the editor, so I can figure out where the editing needs to happen. So anyway, wishing everybody Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I will be back doing this again Thursday next week. I think that's the 29th of December. I'm doing a lead up to New Year's Eve kind of a thing. I'll probably do something live on New Year's Eve myself as well. And that'll be fun. Rick says, I used a piece of music for my open and close that is legally licensed to me. And they put copyright claims on it on 5. So they used music licensed from the same place as you, and somehow it got claimed on what, YouTube probably. That's probably because they have the automated bots that do that kind of stuff. So fascinating stuff. Interesting. And so you made your point, and you had to dispute the claim on each one. Wow. YouTube can do better on this. I've been saying for a while, we got to have some kind of a, it was on Facebook. Facebook took 7 days to follow up and respond on that. That's amazing. I presume this came from something like Epidemic Sound or one of the big sound libraries. I know Epidemic has this way where they can sort of whitelist things, and I don't know how the World Cup folks could claim that, but yeah, it does happen from time to time. And you'd think that there would be a way to some kind of digital watermark where you could include in the file, in the feed, some kind of a hash, not a hashtag, but a hash that would indicate that the music is licensed, and they could cross-check against it rather than take you down and those kinds of things. Now, your show is live on Saturday nights, Rick. I presume we're talking about the Drink with Rick show. But then it's nice when it lives on show, right? On Facebook. But the good news is your live audience didn't lose out because you were able to keep doing the show. And the FIFA folks don't even use the music. So it wasn't the FIFA, it was the producers of the World Cup program that were the television program that were using that music, apparently. So that's interesting. I actually have an inside track to someone involved pretty deeply with the whole show in Qatar. I think he's still over there now, wrapping things up. But I'll have to talk to him about it and just sort of see what news he's got. And you multi-stream on, yeah, so do I. So multi-stream on multiple platforms. And it was just Facebook that dinged you. The other platforms didn't have a problem, huh? Very interesting. Very interesting. What do you have going on for Christmas, folks? We are, yeah, it's Facebook. They're not the most, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not on top of the copyright stuff quite the same way some of the other platforms are. They're also bigger volume for these kinds of things and fewer personnel to deal with it. So it is what it is. Well, that's too bad. I'm sorry that happened for you. Yeah. So what's going on for Christmas? Any big plans? Anything exciting cooking? We have very little planned. My mom's not feeling well, so the plans to get together were called off. Hopefully she will get over this bug she's got very quickly and easily. In fact, I should probably connect with her this afternoon and see how she's doing. Yeah, what else? Yeah, our plans for last weekend for the beginning of Hanukkah, same thing. My nephew was sick, so we decided let's stay away from him and his family, my sister and her kids. So, the pandemic still hasn't completely faded into the background. We're still coping with it. Rick, are you planning to go to Podfest in Orlando next month? End of January, we're in Orlando. Rick's going to take a 4-day rest, streaming on Saturday night. Have to have the wine during the holiday. Yes, Christmas Eve. Yeah, our Facebook user, who I don't know who that is, seeing family and watching nephews open their gifts and possibly Mario Party with brothers and stepdad. Oh, that should be fun. Mario Party. I haven't heard about that game in a while. My kids play some of the Mario games. Mario Kart, Mario's Adventure, I think it's called. There's a few of them, so we'll see. We'll see. I am not a gamer myself. It just does not hold my interest, partly because I'm not any good at it. Can't make Podfest this year, but Tommy and I were invited to be ambassador. Yeah. I saw you in the ambassador meetup, I think. But you're not going to make it down there, huh? What about the podcast movement shows? Are you going to make it to Evolutions in Vegas in March? I just got confirmed that I will be speaking there, and always looking forward to the summertime program. This year it's going to be in Denver. I have never spent much time in Denver, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. Hopefully I'll get to speak, but I'll probably be there either way. And are there any other conferences about podcasting that you are, my faithful viewers, are aware of and like to go to? I'm sort of looking for more opportunities to get on stages and serve the community with answers and information and that kind of thing. So if you're aware of anything, let me know. I'd love to inquire about those kind of things. I keep looking at FinCon and it's never at the right time. There's always something that interferes and I'm not able to get to it, but maybe this year. Atlanta, Rick, lobbying for Atlanta, that makes a lot of good sense. Mark Deal, I know you know Mark. Mark is big in the podcasting business and space down there in Atlanta, and he might just be able to finesse it a little bit. Maybe next year's podcast movement or something could go to Atlanta. It's a great city to visit. A little bit of traffic congestion and things like that sometimes, but generally speaking, it's a good city, and I think it'd be a great place for a conference. I might be in Peachtree, Georgia, for a different industry conference sometime in the next year, and if so, I'll look you up and make sure we can. If you're in Atlanta, I'll connect with you there. Charlotte would be good choice. Good, DC would be great. Anywhere on the eastern seaboard anywhere on either seaboard is great. I'd love to do one in Portland or Seattle or something like that. I know there's a fellow who's organizing something up in, I want to say Idaho or Montana or something like that. And he's sort of hoping to make it a bit of more of a resorty, vacation-y kind of experience as well as just conference. And there's something to be said to going to a place where there's not a lot of other attractions to draw people away from conference for parts of the day and things like that. I love Orlando, and I'm looking forward to being there. But, I don't have a lot of interest in SeaWorld, and I've got Disney in my backyard here in LA, so whatever. Charlotte, I've never been to Charlotte. I think I might have to check that out sometime. And, New York is just too expensive, but it'd be a great place to do a show as well. Used to be one in DC. It's gotten very expensive apparently to do conferences in DC. I was just talking to somebody who had something. It was like I think it was Ryan Gray had something going in DC for the medical field, med school programs that he gets involved with. And he was doing a live event there, and it was colossally expensive and really challenging to make it all happen and find a venue and, all those kinds of things. And boy, I'll tell you, the live event business is an interesting one. A lot of moving parts, and you sort of have to, it's like planning a wedding on an even bigger scale for tens of thousands of people. So it is what it is. Producing events, producing shows. I can say I've got a fair bit of experience with all of that, and producing a conference is like producing a 3 or 4 or 5 day long stage production with multiple stages, and like a music festival or anything. Big job. Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to call it a day and sign off. I've been going for 45 minutes, which is long for me. I usually kind of get in and out in 10 or 15. I did record 2 episodes today, so that's good. But I'll be back next Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific time for another episode of Legit Podcast Pro. And I haven't figured out what the topic will be yet, but it'll be interesting, I'm sure. And I look forward to seeing you there again, if you're watching live or recorded. Thank you. Drop a hashtag replay in the comments below wherever you're watching, so I can learn a little more about it. And thank you. Yes, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, and I'll see you again just before the new year. the new year. See you later. Take care. Bye, everybody.